creators in North America increased by 36 million people. Right? Think about that for a second, 36 million. It's no longer creators are like a small group over here doing amazing things, right? You all right, which are part of this community, are really the next creator generation. And I think there's a lot of power to that. And I think that's really, really amazing. And we're seeing that power not only influence, but really drive how brands do business, drive culture, and in many cases, yeah, drive platforms. And I think that's amazing. So, I'll throw out numbers like 133 billion minutes of creator content viewed, or Instagram is moving 20% to Reels because of creators. Like, of course they are. All the power of what you bring is amazing. Now, the second amazing thing that we're seeing is this reemergence of authenticity. I think that's why today's the theme of today, right? I've been doing this for 12 years. I worked on one of the first creator campaigns for Instagram. It was an auto brand. At that time, creators like you all were just excited to explore, excited to play on the platform, and just embodied authenticity. And obviously platforms evolved and the industry grew and lots of brands got, into the game. And there was a little bit of evolution in storytelling through that time. But the past 2 or 3 years has been super, super interesting because all of you with Gen Z, with short form video, the pandemic, unfortunately, right? But has really established this new expectation of authenticity, and that's gonna be awesome. The reason why that's gonna be awesome is that's gonna allow you to tell more real stories. It's gonna allow you to tell more nuanced stories, to be more inclusive and diverse. And I think that's gonna be really great. The last major trend that we're seeing, right, is this idea of creative diversity and multidimensional storytelling. Gone are the days, right, where creators just do one thing. We're seeing creators of we talked about many different generations of creators, right, expanding across multiple different formats, multiple different platforms. And that's great, right, because it allows you to tell more complex, bigger stories, more nuanced. And that's gonna be really, really powerful. And so, but it's also good for business, right? We talked about business today, and it's good for business because it gives you the creative tools to lean into these new formats as they emerge. It allows you the ability to adjust as these platforms change, right? And so that's gonna be really, really good for you. So, I think that's no surprise, right? 75% of creators shared in Meta because we have that range, and I'm excited to see what you all get to do.
Great, thanks. So you mentioned authenticity, and I think I don't read a single article around creators that doesn't mention authenticity. So I think, Janet, question for you. As a brand, Samsung has business goals to achieve. How do you balance working with creators to ensure authenticity, but also deliver our goals?
So as many brands go through, make the mistake of giving a checklist to creators, we've done that. We said, we want you to mention nightography, space zoom, and we try giving very scripted, storytelling for the creators. That did not work. That was the first thing we learned working with creators. So the approach we're taking in order to ensure that we get the right story that helps our brand tell our story through the creators, while retaining and preserving that authenticity for our creators, is that we approach it very strategically. So we respect our creators as our partners, and we're very open about what we're trying to accomplish through their content and, by reaching their audience. So we take a step back and we spend time making our creators understand why we're working with them and why we want them to create certain content. So it takes time. So we invest more time in making them understand and get on the same page. And then we take more time in training them with our products, our features, because when you don't invest in that, then you have to be very tactical. We want you to use this feature, showcase this functionality. So we don't do that anymore. We invest time in making you understand our business objectives, making sure that you're really familiar with our products and how to use. And then from there, we kind of say, what do you think? What do you think should be the content? How should we talk about our nightography? How would you bring that to life through your content? So we kind of leave it up to our creators. And, they're very business savvy professionals. So they would come to us with ideas that we would have never thought of, being in our little box as a brand. So that's how we ensure authenticity, because when our creators start losing authenticity and when that's diluted, then we don't succeed. That completely defeats our purpose of working with creators.
Great.
Yeah, and I'll just add, right, like Samsung gets it, right, and they do an amazing job, but the industry as a whole, they need your authenticity, right, because they are very good at telling kind of more of a polished brand story. But you are the experts in this space, and I think leaning into that is such an amazing thing that you can bring to the table.
Well, I suppose related to that, I mean, it feels like the creator community and influencers in quotes have been around for a while, but it feels like they're even more important now, more than ever. Is that because of the lack of authenticity with brands' own storytelling, or what's the reason?
Well, I think it's because these platforms are changing so quickly, right? And I think creators are, you're the kings of experimentation and exploration, right? And so you're uncovering stuff that we're even learning from, right? And I think because of that, that puts you at the forefront of being able to tell those authentic stories. But, I also think, like right now, culture kind of demands it, right? I think everybody has that expectation. I mean, I've obviously I work on Reels, but the audience there wants those real stories. And sometimes that's lo-fi, sometimes that's one-to-one direct to the audience, right? Or photo drops or video drops, right? There's a reason why those thrive right now. And that's because that's what the audience wants. And again, you guys are figuring out how to actually do it. And that's why I think it's really, really important to lean into that.
Right. I mean, mobile obviously plays a huge role in content creation. What impact do you think mobile has had in the last 5 years on the creator economy?
The mobile devices? Yeah, I mean, well, first, obviously, amazing new capability from Samsung phones, right? I think is unlocking all different kinds of. I mean, it's a studio in your pocket in many ways, right? And allows us to quickly iterate and bring content to the table.
So to answer your question, Simon, about why there's this big surge of creators, and it's only amplifying, and creators are being recognized, and they're having a big moment. I think many factors working together. I think our social media platforms, our partners are here. I think they're doing something right. I think creators, through their creativity, is also fueling it. And then all the consumers who are consuming these contents are asking for more. And brands like Samsung, we recognize that, and we work with the creators to do more. So I think all things working together is really driving the creator economy and really bringing the creator community into the limelight. About mobile device, our smartphones, yes, it has definitely contributed to this amplification of creator economy and creator community, because I was thinking about it with any pursuit of creativity, whether it's music or painting, you need that upfront investment, right? You need to, if you want to be a pianist or learn how to play the piano, you have to buy a piano. If you want to be a guitarist, you have to buy a guitar. If you want to paint, you need to buy easel and some expensive, paint brushes. But everybody has a phone. Yes, I mean, phones are not cheap, but everybody has a phone. The cost of entry is so low. You just need that courage to take that first step, right, and create content and put it out there for other people to see. So I think we're extremely proud that our phone is that device that empowers and enables creator to just jump right in and let their creativity loose.
Yeah, and again, I can't, like, things are moving so fast, right? Like, these trends are developing and cultivating and spreading. These new capabilities allow you to move faster, and it's so important to the creative process. And just the advancements have been really, really amazing.
Right. So I think getting down to the brass tacks, I think the million-dollar question for Janet is, what does a brand like Samsung look for in creators? and what can creators do to make themselves attractive to brands?
So we have very clear objectives when working with creators, and we're not shy about telling our creators why they got selected and what they're supposed to do for our brand. So obviously, just give a few examples. We want to gain credibility from the creator community because the creator community has the authority when it comes to camera functionality. So that's one. So we, without revealing our secret sauce again, we have one group of creators that we literally call camera storytellers, right? So it's tightly aligning to our business objective because we want to drive our camera superiority equity through the creators. And we want to, drive certain brand imagery with our target audience, especially the younger generations, so Gen Zs and younger millennials. And we're very clear on what brand equity attributes we want to drive. So if a creator aligns with, one or two or group of those attributes, we obviously select you and we'll work with you. So it's a combination of the audience that you reach and the objectives we think that you will be effective in driving. So that's how we pick. And then I mentioned this earlier, but we care for dedication and your serious dedication to the craft of content creation. So that's also key.
Yeah, and I'll add, when I talk to creators and when I talk to you all, right, I'm always incredibly impressed how sophisticated you all are, right? You are incredibly sophisticated marketers, and I think, when you talk about getting the right brief and understanding where you sit in the mix, that's really great, and I think it's important to understand where you fit in that marketing mix, not to become to just do what the brand wants, but to really understand what you're trying to achieve, I think is such an important part of connecting with brands and helping them see the value that you bring.
Great. Jen, I think just going back to your point. So for anybody sat here in the audience or on the live stream who is looking at Samsung and thinking, I really want to work with Samsung or brand X, what are the 2 or 3 things that they should be doing today?
Number one, reach out to Simon Callan. So the advice I would give, and obviously I can give it from the perspective of the brand, the company. This is something, that we also embody as a brand that works with creators. We care for long-term partnership. We have almost allergic reaction to transactionary relationships. So I would say the same to the creator community. Don't jump on the first opportunity that pays you. Be very selective about which brand you work with. Because again, it goes back to authenticity, right? If you kind of work, if you're motivated to work with the brand companies for the paycheck, then your audience will be the first to notice. Oh, you don't really care for that brand. You don't really care for the products, or you're not a good fit. They'll be the first, and that's your asset. You cannot jeopardize that, right? So choose a brand or brands that are right fit for you, that you genuinely get excited to work with, and then choose a team who treats you as partners. And we're very proud that we do that. So when we assign new content creators, to work with, we have onboarding process where you meet not only our agency partners, but Simon Callan's team and myself and, other members of my team. And we ask you, what does success look like for you? What are your career aspirations? How can we help? And that speaks to our approach of being a genuine partner. So I ask that, I would recommend that you do the same. Don't work with brands based on money. Money is important, but find a long-term partner who cares about your career and your success, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think I love this idea of authenticity, but also authenticity in where you fit in marketing, right? So when we talk to creators, if you're an entertainment-driven creator, right, you're definitely like a brand and awareness play. But if you're like an influencer or if you're a product reviewer, you're much more around consideration and conversion. And both of those things are really, really important, right? On the brand side, you know how to break through the clients, or sorry, break through with audiences, conversion, right? You inspire people to buy these products, and that's so important today in this economy. But understanding like that self-awareness just is not just your creative, but where you kind of fit, and allows you to get to the right briefs. That allows you to be actually more authentic, right? And I think that's a good way for to start thinking about approaching this industry.
Great. I've got a few more questions, but any from the audience? Anybody? No? Okay. I'll keep asking some more questions on my list then.
I'll ask a question.
Go on then.
So one of the difficulties, who do I have in mind? One of the difficulties we face as creators is bridging the gap between the authenticity that we naturally have on a day-to-day basis on our platforms and fusing that with the messages that brands want to get across. And especially after you've created something that you know is just going to do awesome on the various platforms where you have the biggest reach, it's really difficult for a brand to come back to you and say, can you make sure you're not unpackaging the item as you're talking about it? Because in their eyes, they're still thinking of the old school, let's make this perfect looking commercial for TV. But in our eyes, we're thinking, what would I actually be doing if I was talking to a friend about this item right now? And do you have any advice for how to bridge that gap and how to help them understand that although they are this big, powerful company, we may understand how to reach our audience better than they do and make it authentic?
Sure. I can answer that. So I think, the reality of creators is that you have to work with boring business people, right? So you need to develop certain level of business acumen, business, professionalism. So the way I would approach that is by reminding them why you were selected to work with them. And you need to demand authority when it comes to your audience and what works for your audience, right? If they're asking you, okay, you need to, unbox our product in XYZ order, you need to pause when you're opening the box. They're being very tactical, right? They chose you based on strategy, and they should focus on the objective and the end goal, not the process. They should have that, and you should get them to have that trust, in you to kind of drive the process. I'm sure there are brand guidelines, there are guardrails, but as long as you stay within the guardrails, they should focus on the objective that they're trying to accomplish through you and your content versus being tactical. It's hard for brand people because we're so used to making super polished, advertisement. So this may be a whole new territory for some brand managers, some marketers. So I think you just need to be very open and kind of educate, them along the way. I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, I'll add to that, and I think that's amazing advice. First, I think a lot of this, when we work with brands and creators as kind of an intermediary, can't say that word, is actually get way up front and actually collaborate on the brief itself and making sure that you articulate in the brief what are the objectives, what are the approaches, what are the things that you need, and you can kind of work out some of those things up front so that you're not burning a lot of time creating something and then having to re-edit, and that's just not very efficient, let's be honest. And look, inputting in a brief allows you to build that trust and that relationship with clients so that you could almost get into their brain a little bit and start to predict what they want in the voice, right? I'm not saying like this is not them telling you what to do creatively, but it allows you to figure out creatively how to solve what they're trying to do. And so that's one thing. The other thing is, look, there's one thing on the organic to your audience, right? I think you the more that you can bring metrics, right, to the conversation, I think the more powerful you can make that case. But when you start to turn those into like paid campaigns, right, we can really measure the effectiveness of using your voice and using your technique. And more often than not, right, it's going to outperform what we call BAU, right, business as usual. So, that's the way that I would think about it. It's like get way ahead in the brief, really start to get into the metrics. And I guess the long term, the last thing is what Janet's already talked about, build those long-term relationships, right? And it takes time. It's just kind of like dating, right? It's like you're gonna have to learn how to work with each other and what makes each other tick. But once you do, that's where the best work is gonna happen.
You made the audience very nervous by saying it's like dating.
Sorry.
They're like, oh, I don't know if I want that. I thought of one more thing to help you. So what you should do is ask your partner, your brand partner, what is the takeaway or what is the behavior you want my audience to have as a result of the content? So sometimes, because we're also tempted to say, hey, I want you to talk about these 5 things in your content, we lose sight of why we're doing, what we're doing with our creators. So sometimes we just say, hey, after watching this content, we want, your audience to think that, oh my God, I need to go get that phone. Or Samsung is a cool brand. Or that phone has the best camera. So we tell them, this is the takeaway I want to instill in your audience. So maybe that's a good starting point.
Well, I suppose to take that one step further, and not to use a dating analogy, but what do you do when you need to break up?
Sorry?
When you need to break up, what does that process look like?
So just like, dating or relationship, it should not be a surprise, right? There should be signs leading up to the breakup. So we are very open when things are not working, right? And it's mutual. So we don't blame our creators, for the partnership not working. We also self-reflect and sometimes we get together and say, it's not working. What do you think it is? We think it's this. So we have that conversation. And, sometimes we find solutions, right? I'll give you an example. We were very, rigorous in our initial approach in working with creators. We're very strict about certain things, and we have pretty much one size fits all, list of deliverables. We quickly learned that doesn't work. Some of our creators are real creators. They like to constantly produce content. Some are not, right? And we can't hold them to the same standards or same, obligations. So that's one thing. And then again, I mentioned earlier, when we were too prescriptive about what the content needs to feature, then our creators end up sounding very robotic and they're not genuine and authentic. So we fixed that. The only, I think, scenario where we just have to execute the breakup is when our creators are not professionally mature. I mentioned you're working with grown-ups here. You're working with business people. So you need to bring, professional maturity, right? You need to understand, you don't need to be, you don't need to have an MBA or anything like that, but you need to understand that, ongoing success is what's going to sustain the partnership, right? So when creators don't quite yet have that professional maturity, that's when we say, okay, you're not ready and we don't want to babysit you. So good luck.
Yeah, and I'll add, and this goes along the lines of maturity, right? Of being able to have those honest conversations with your clients, right? Or the people that you're working with when things are going well, but also when things aren't going well. And I think they're going to respect you so much to have those conversations because everybody's so busy and we have so many things that we have to deliver, but if you can help bring up an issue and then also bring the solutions, man, you talk about building trust, right? They're going to think, okay, you're going to help me solve my problems. And I think that's hopefully that helps you never to get to the breakup phase.
So we've got 1 minute left. I think fun last question. If you were creators, what would your channel look like?
So my channel will be all about skincare. Those of you who know me, you know that I'm a huge skincare product junkie. So it's going to be all about that, and I will cover products and treatments, and I'll be giving free advice. I'll be reviewing products. I'll educate people on different ingredients, sunscreen, what SPF means. So that would be my channel.
Yeah, for me, it would be deep cut, like esoteric products in my life. If you need to know which vacuum to buy or which mattress, I've done hundreds of hours. So that would probably be my channel.
Great. All right, thank you both so much. I know we're going to continue the meta discussion, so I'm going to welcome on stage Pierre Coca, who's the product marketing manager at Instagram, to talk about IG Reels. Welcome, Pierre.